Hi, I'm Mike from Mike's Carburetor Parts. I'm going to do a rebuild on a Rochester one-barrel B carburetor. I did one several years ago, but the darn thing is too dark. It's hard to tell what's going on. Now this is kind of a later model of the B. The one I did before was a manual choke, but it's pretty much the same idea. So be sure to watch this video all the way through to the end. I'm going to offer a lot of tips that's really going to help you when you rebuild your Rochester carburetor. So first of all, these things came with a tag screwed onto the top. Most of them are missing, so it makes it very hard to figure out which kit you need. Once in a while they will have the last four numbers stamped on the bottom of the flange here, and then you add 700 to the front of that and you got your carb number. But they don't all have that. So we do have a universal kit we put together that covers all the Bs, with one caveat. If you happen to have a round stem accelerator pump with a leather cup, then you're going to have to replace the pump itself. Otherwise the kit comes with a just the cup to put on it. So let's get started here. I took this arm off here, the rod, and we'll take these top screws out. These screws here, we have some of them, but the Bs use several different thread pitches, and some of them they just don't make anymore. If you happen to have a 10 by 32 thread, then you're in luck. And I think they use those that size on the later Bs. Okay, and this one happens to have a hot air choke. You see this pipe right here goes up. This is what brings up the vacuum into the choke to suck the hot air in, and the hot air comes in here. Alright, so let's take this off and see what we got going here. First of all, we have the flat pump, which is nice. You figure that out. We got a kit. You don't have to buy the universal, just find the one with the flat pump and you got it made. And we're going to take it off here. Notice how the rod goes. Now I suggest taking lots of digital pictures as you go along. That way if you can't remember which way this rod went or something else, you can just look back at your picture. I have to do that all the time because, you know, there's just too many of them. I can't remember everything. So we got two little clips here. Okay, so alright, clip somewhere. There it is. Alright, stick it over here. This rod here is what moves your accelerator pump with your throttle. Tell you, the older ones are a little bit easier to mess with than the... Oh, I know what I need to do. Clumsy me. Screwdriver. Loosen up the throttle body here. Oh, somebody put that on way too tight. Now as you can see, this one's pretty clean. This is our show and tell carburetor. You want to take everything apart, get something like, oh, I'll think of it in a minute, the cleaner. There, that came off. We can take this off. This is your fast idle cam. Notice, oh shoot, I don't want to fit. Notice which way it screws on. I'll leave it off leave it on there for now. Okay, so alright, as far as the throttle valve goes, number one, before you take it out, if you take it off at all, I gotta get this thing off of here. I don't need this. These have the double pontoon floats, and you want to shake them, see if there's any fuel in them, but if it's been sitting for months, it may have evaporated. So heat up some water just prior to boiling, immerse the pontoons into the water and see if you get any bubbles. Or just order a new float. That's what I always do. I always try to replace the float. Who knows when they're going to become unavailable. Alright, it's important that this valve gets back in the same place or the same direction. Otherwise you're going to have problems. If it's open at all, you're going to have trouble getting it to idle. These screws are very delicate, they break easy, so what you want to do is always grind this end off, this side, the threaded end, flush with the shaft. That way they'll come out a little easier, and just take your time, work on it, because like I say, they're easily broken. Now, if you don't have corrosion, they seem to be working really well, then don't even take it off, because they're so easily broken. Check your slop in here. Best to do it while it's running. You can spray a little carb cleaner on these ends, and if the RPM changes, you know you got a leak there. These can be bushed. Best be done by a professional. Take the screw out, the idle mixture screw, and okay, it's simple to see how else that goes on, so we'll just how it goes together, so leave it over there. Alright, so let's take the float out. It's got this little pin here. When you go put it back together, you want to make sure it doesn't bind. The pins could be worn. I'm not sure if that one's available or not. Okay, we'll take the needle out, or float valve. Our kit will have a new one with a Viton tip. Do not put any pressure on this tip when you adjust the float. If you do, it'll probably damage it and you'll have flooding problems. I hate to say most flooding problems come from the needle and seat, because people will take that to mean that's exactly what's wrong with theirs, and that's not true. There's a whole list of things that can cause you flooding, and this is just one of them, but it's usually the cause, coming through the needle and seat. So take our gasket off. Oh, can't do that yet. I got to take the main post off. This is your main jet. Don't change your jet unless you have a good reason to. This has a number 58 on it, so that's the jet size, 0.058. And like I say, this is the main post. They're not all the same. There's several different main posts. They're not available, so you know, don't break it. Okay. So you can see a ball bearing in there. So what we want to do is first let's take this off. Okay, this is your power piston with the spring. That's going to have to go up and down easily. See, it just sucked up with vacuum. And we do have the springs available. You can replace those. Okay, let me grab a windshield. Okay. And you want to be careful with the check balls. There's 3 of them that come in our kit anyway. Can't talk about anybody else's kit. I don't know what they have. Alright, seen that spring jump out there? Be careful. Fortunately, we have those. And there's your ball bearing. You'll get 3 ball bearings. This is the smallest stainless steel bearing in the kit. That's the one that goes in here. If you put one that's too big, if you happen to put the big one in, it's going to get stuck in here. And then you got to somehow get it out or buy a new cap, which we do have at the time of this recording anyway. Who knows how long. Alright, so we got that out. We'll take the choke off here. So what we're doing here is we're getting it ready to clean. And what we're going to do is soak it for a couple hours, maybe up to 4. I don't like to leave them in all night because the cleaner will etch the carburetor surface. So be careful. Check it every few hours. Make sure it's not etching it. Okay, there's your thermostat. Okay, we're going to take this off here in a second. The housing. So most pickups use manual choke. So you don't have this. Now the cars, like a Pontiac 6-cylinder, they use a hot air choke like this. We do have electric conversion kits for these, which are nice. Okay, I have to think about how to get those out. I don't remember right offhand. Been a while since I took one of these apart, but anyway, I think I'm going to have to take the valve off to get it off. That sucks. Okay. Let me tighten these back up. Yeah, I thought I could take those screws out. But like I say, so very few of these have these chokes on them, these hot air chokes, that I'd forgotten how to get one apart, quite frankly. But I can see the only way to get this off is to take this choke valve out. Now, these are brand new screws, and they don't look like they've been mushroomed out. Yeah, I see someone put those screws in with a air gun or something. Okay, don't break this. We do have these at the moment. They're pressed in. You just shove them in there and tap them a little bit. We'll come back to this. I do need to get it apart. There's a gasket right there, but I'm going to have to work on these, grinding down all that stuff. Alright, so we take out the accelerator pump, and it comes off like this. That's your arm. You got a little washer or a keeper on the top to hold this. This is a what you call a delayer spring. Just kind of a when you press on the gas and this goes down, it doesn't just jerk down. This kind of holds it, delays it, so that it's not super quick. And that's a return spring that goes under it. And then we got right here, this is our main discharge hole right here. And we're going to have a check ball in there. Take this T out. It just pulls out. And then it's got this little spring here. And then the check ball, of the 3 check balls, this will be the biggest one. That's how you tell. The biggest one goes in there on all of these. Some of them will have a check ball, intake check ball at the bottom of the accelerator pump. And this one does not have that type. This one just fills by splashing over the edge. And some of them will have a check ball down here with a little screen on it. That's your intake check ball. There's several, 3 different designs. One check ball in here, could be one out here, or no check ball at all goes in there. And this one has a no check ball. So that one's ready to clean. And I will mess with this and come back. I was hoping I wouldn't have to take that off because I'm not sure if I have the screws for it right where I'm at right now. I'm not actually at the warehouse. Oh, that one came loose. Okay. Try this again. Nope. So the screw is in there so hard I had to drill it out, and then I took an easy out and got it the rest of the way out. One thing I want to comment on, now you see the little C mark is at the top, so I'm going to mark this with just a little scratch so that I know exactly how it goes in. Okay, that's important, both for the throttle and the choke. Alright, so alright, I finally got that out. Okay. Take this screw out here. Okay, see how that goes right there? That's why you're taking pictures. This little lever here goes on just like that with the protruding in towards the carburetor. Put that over there. Now, get these screws loose. Okay. There. So we're going to buff this really well, get all them burrs off of there. This is the thing you want to clean up really good so it slides around in here, slides in here really easy because that's all vacuum. Put that aside, this aside, and okay, so we need to get our berrymans out. I like berrymans. You got to watch it. You put in too long, they say 4 hours. I've actually seen 4 hours etch a carburetor. So you want to check it every once in a while, especially aluminum. I also recommend simple green, straight, but you got to be very careful with that. That stuff's unforgiving, and so many people don't follow directions that I'm leaning towards berrymans. But anyway, the berryman's good. Get it at any parts store. I'm not taking this one out. Well, I know who did it, who rebuilt this carburetor and made it so you can't take it apart. Unbelievable. I'll have to talk to him about that. So anyway, here we go. We're going to put all this in berryman. You can see this is already clean, so we're going to clean it, and then I'm going to show you after it's clean. You want to get all of the get yourself some I don't know if you can see it, there's a hole down here. That's your main discharge. That's where the fuel's going to come out. I can see air through it, but if you blow carburetor cleaner through it, you know that'll help clean it, and you know it goes through all the little passageways. You want to make sure they're all open. Okay, you see that go through? Put a little thin there. I broke that off. I don't have one here, so I'm not going to fix it. Okay. And then do the same thing here. Okay, you can see that went through to the accelerator pump well, which is where it's going to get its gas from. And yeah, this hole, and then of course your vacuum hole through here. This is the real important one. That's your idle. You want you got idle, and you got some transfer holes down here. You got to make sure they're clear, and you can do that by plugging those off with it together. Blow some in here, and it'll come out through the top. Yeah, so just take your time on these passages. Make sure they all go through. That's the most important thing. So everything else looks okay. We're going to clean it up, and then we'll come back and put it together. Okay, so we got this Rochester B all cleaned up. We blew out all the passages, so now we're going to put it back together. So what we're going to start out with here is we're going to put the main discharge stuff in here. Well, actually, instead of that, let's put the yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. Okay. First of all, get the biggest check ball, the stainless steel check ball. Your kit will have 3 in it. There's an aluminum one that goes down the bottom of the accelerator pump wheel. Not on this particular carburetor. It doesn't use one down there. The other small check ball will be used in the power piston part, and the other biggest check ball will go down at the bottom of the main discharge like that. You've got a spring, and then you got the little T that goes in the little slots. Now, some of the older ones, they had this round plug in here. Get that plug out, and it just kind of sits in there, and make you a couple of grooves in it for that T to sit in, because that's what's going to come in the kit, is the T. So not a big deal. You can stake this if you want. I'll tell you that the gasket is going to fit right over it, right here. So that's going to keep it down anyway, so you don't really have to stake it. Alright, so we did that much. We got that in there. Let's put I'm going to get the accelerator pump started. I'll take this apart real quick so you can see how it was put together. This is the delayer spring. The delayer spring keeps the accelerator pump from doing herky-jerky stuff when you're stepping on it, and it delays the action a little bit, so you have a smooth accelerator pump. Okay, a keeper goes on top like so. And then this goes in there just like that. Okay, this one is a leather cup. Put 2 drops of oil, any kind of oil, on here. That'll help swell it up. Do not soak it overnight, you'll ruin it. If you are using the later model B and it's got the rubber cup, put a couple of dabs of lithium grease on it. That will help. Gas just doesn't have the lubrication it used to nowadays. Okay, I'm going to put the accelerator pump in next. First I got to put the return spring in there. And here's the pump. Carefully put in, make sure that the leather doesn't roll up. I'm going to put this part on right now. Make sure the bend is pointed the right way. Put that on so the pump doesn't fly out on me while I'm trying to get this thing together. And got the little clip here we'll put on here. There we go. And there we are. So now I want to put the throttle body back on. that's going to be positioned like that when we put it together. So make sure your fast idle cam is on there correct. Got this loose. Let's see if we can get this in here. There we go. This is your return. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and test the plunger. Let's see how we're doing there. So I'm going to pour some, let me put this here because I know I'm going to make a mess. And I'm going to put some mineral spirits. This is odorless mineral spirits. Use gas, you might burn down your house or shop, so you don't want to do that. So put a little bit in there, and I'm going to tip the carburetor because on this one it fills the accelerator pump up well over the top, over the edge. So there you go, it's in there. And so there we go. Okay, see how the gas will come up there? Need some more gas in there, or excuse me, mineral spirits. Alright, so you know that it's coming through, so we're good there. So I'm going to stop it up with my finger. There's a little hole right here, you probably can't see on the camera, but that's where it needs to squirt out. It'll be a pretty good squirt. There you go. I don't know if you've seen it, but I got a pretty good squirt out there. So I know the accelerator pump system is working just fine. Now I got to get rid of all the excess stuff I have. Find my funnel here. It's somewhere. Minute. Let's get this top here. Yeah, okay, so first thing we need to do is put the gasket on. Now these gaskets, sometimes they got a little more gasket on this that covers more of this. That's okay if it does. If it doesn't matter. Like so. And we got the power piston here, the spring, it's all cleaned up so that it goes up and down easy. It's vacuum controlled, so it can't be too hard. You want to make sure that there's a little trough in there for the check ball to fill in if it's been broken off or bent. You're going to have to try and find a used one somewhere. They don't make them new. And keep in mind that they are different, lots of different sizes out there. Okay, so put this on here like so. Try and keep my hand out of the way. And again, I'm looking for that. Oh, the screw's right there. Okay, I'm always losing that screw for some reason. Alright, we'll tighten it down. Make sure nothing's binding as we do that. The main jet, which has the size stamped on it, goes on here. So, the smaller check ball, stainless steel check ball, goes in here, goes in first. If you get the wrong one, the big one, it's going to get stuck in here. We sell a lot of these because people get the check ball stuck. They're very hard to get out. Best way is just to buy a new cap, as long as they still make them. Today we have them, tomorrow we might not. I don't know. Okay, I'll get the spring top of that chuck ball. Tighten this down. Use a regular open end, not a crescent wrench like I'm doing. Okay. And so the next thing we'll do is put in the needle and seat. Put the gasket on the seat. Now the needle and seat, it comes in a package in our kit, and it's separated from the other stuff so that you get it all together. Okay. Put the needle in all the time you're adjusting the float. Don't put any pressure on that needle. It's got a bite and tip. Any pressure on it, it's probably going to flood. Here's the float pin. Make sure it's not bent. Make sure there's no grooves in it. When you buy a new one, if they're available, get the length of your pin. That's what you got to match up. Because I can't tell you which one goes in here for sure. Make sure that's centered. Make sure your pontoons are centered. Do not bend with the pontoons. You'll break the solder joint. Okay, so they're centered so they don't rub on the side. We're going to check the float level by measuring from here to the top of the float. The spec is on your spec sheet. I'm not giving you the spec because when I do in a video, they think every car out there is going to use that same spec, and that's not true. Every carburetor is different. Depends on what car and engine it fits on. Alright, float drop. Turn it right side up. You let the thing drop. You measure from here to the bottom of the float, and that's your float drop. How do we adjust it? Okay, we take it out, and if we want to adjust the float, we just either squeeze this down a little bit or open it up with a screwdriver a little bit. It takes very little. Just do a very little bit. That's for the float level. For the float drop, you bend this back and forth. Okay, so you do very little. You put it back in there. Check your measurement again, whatever it happens to be. Okay. If you don't find your carburetor on the spec sheet, get the closest engine that you can and go with that. The carburetors are often swapped around. You never know what you got on there. Okay, look at my parts here, make sure I didn't forget something. I think we're okay. Now we're going to put this on here, and we're going to do it gently, let it just fall on there more or less, so we're not going to force it. That will definitely bend something. And I put the gasket on the wrong way. Okay. I should have known because there's the vacuum hole right here that it cannot cover. So we put the seat back in, we got the needle in there. We're going to put the post back on here. Float back in there. You got to think about making a video and getting the parts in the right place at the same time. It's kind of hard. Okay. Now it should fit on there just like it's supposed to. Okay. Like I said, we don't force it. We only have 3 screws. The last one was 1 point or another. Oh. Before we get too far, make sure this is hooked up, just like so. Okay, this is the vacuum. If I haven't mentioned it, which I'm sure I have, vacuum sucks the hot air from this side into the housing there. Alright, so get the screw started. And I like to go across diagonally. Most of these are warped. When they're warped, they'll leak out here in between the screws. If you happen to be sophisticated enough to make a jig where you can squeeze it in a vise and heat it at the same time, you might be able to get it unwarped. I have in the past. I don't have that jig anymore. Worst case scenario, put a second gasket on. The best thing to do is we have a replacement carburetor for these that you should put on there. Right, so this collar is going on, and the male side goes towards the carburetor because you need something to put this on. And it goes with the tab on top. Okay. Okay, see? It is on top. Alright, get this around where it's supposed to be. And this will go in the hole like this. Like so. Oh, come on. Okay, and click it shut. Okay. Alright, so what we got left here is the choke. That's the way that looks right there. That's a high step, and there's a low step. So cold is going to be up here. So let's put the choke on. This will go on this side so that when you turn it, it's going to close the choke like so. Okay, and we're going to get these screws started, but not tighten them because we need to adjust the choke. Okay, so to adjust it, we're going to turn this clockwise. The throttle is open so that the fast idle isn't impeding the progress. We're going to turn it just until the flap closes and the throttle open. Okay, do it again. Okay, and then we're going to do another 1/8 of a turn. Tighten it up. Okay, this particular thermostat does not have an index on it, so we can't do it that way, which is fine. I don't like using the index anyway. These carburetors are 60 years old and worn, so I don't think sitting on the index is that good. So when it's cold, if it seems like it's not choking enough, come back and tighten it up a little more. If it seems like it's too choked, you know, loosen up a little bit. Just a little bit of trial and error. Okay, so you can take this out if you need to clean out the piston well real good. Pop this out. It's just like a flat piece of, I'm not sure how to explain, but it's kind of flat, concave, and you see this dimple in there. That's because when you put it in there, you hit it with a hammer, ball peen, and it'll spread out and seal itself. Alright, so there's what it's got to look like. And we got everything hooked up. I will mention one thing, the mounting gasket. It has a hole here for this vacuum hole. A lot of them, you'll see the gasket, it covers that hole, some of the older ones. And that's okay, because right inside here is another place for the vacuum to come through. And so it can be covered. But in this case, it can't be covered. There's no hole inside the bore. Okay? And if I hadn't mentioned it, be sure you blow out the idle mixer screw real good. When I put it in, I turn it down till it's snug. If you tighten it too much, you're going to ruin your screw. It'll score, bend, whatever. When you go buy the new screw, they're sold by the length. That's how you match them up, because we don't know which carburetor takes which screw, except in some cases. Alright, so that's a rebuild of Rochester B. Yours may not have the choke. That's okay. Makes it a little easier for you. So we do appreciate you watching our videos. Be sure to visit our website at mikescarb.com, MIKESCARB.com. Thank you for watching.